Hello everyone, this is Ava, and welcome back to Fluent English Journey. If you are new here, let me tell you that on this channel, we help you improve your English every single day with practice stories and useful examples, so make sure to listen carefully, repeat after me if you can, and enjoy the stories I will share with you today. Remember, this is for English learners at the B1 level, so I will keep my language simple and clear, but also natural. Today, I want to begin with a story about Daniel. Daniel is a young man who recently started a new job in a small company. On his very first day, he was nervous, but he wanted to make a good impression. When he entered the office, he saw his new boss, Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris smiled and said, "Welcome, Daniel. We are happy to have you here." That short and friendly sentence made Daniel feel more relaxed. Later in the day, Daniel was asked to give a short introduction about himself. He stood up, took a deep breath, and said, "Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel. I am very excited to work with you." Even though it was a simple introduction, it showed confidence. This is something you can learn from when you introduce yourself. Speak clearly, smile, and keep it short. Now let me tell you another story about Emma and her husband. Emma moved to a new city. Because of her husband's work, she did not know anyone there, and she felt lonely at first. One day, she decided to go to the local market. While buying vegetables, she started a small conversation with the shopkeeper. She said, "The weather is nice today." The shopkeeper smiled and replied, "Yes, it is, and tomorrow will be even better." From that simple start, Emma continued the conversation, and slowly she built a friendly relationship with the people in the market. This shows how small talk can help us feel more connected in a new place. If you are learning English, practicing small sentences like "How are you?" or "The weather is nice today" can open the door to longer conversations. I also want to share a short story about David. David is a teacher, and he wanted to encourage his students to read more. He told them, "If you read one page every day, in 1 year, you will finish a whole book." One of his students, Anna, listened carefully and started reading just one page every night before going to bed. After 6 months, Anna realized she had already finished 3 books. She was so proud of herself, and her English vocabulary improved a lot. This story shows that small daily habits can create big results over time. If you want to improve your English, you do not need to study for hours every day. Just 15 minutes of listening, reading, or speaking practice can help you get better. Let me give you another example. There was a man named Robert who wanted to learn how to cook. His wife always prepared the meals, but Robert thought it was important to help her. He started with simple dishes like boiled eggs and sandwiches. At first, he made mistakes, but he kept trying. One day, he finally cooked pasta with vegetables, and his wife smiled and said, "This is delicious." Robert felt proud, and he realized that learning something new takes time and patience. In the same way, learning English is like learning to cook. You may make mistakes in the beginning, but if you keep practicing step by step, you will become better and more confident. Another story is about Sarah, who wanted to travel abroad. She was planning to visit Canada, but she was worried about her English. Sarah practiced every day by listening to English podcasts and repeating sentences. When she finally traveled, she ordered food in a restaurant by herself, asked for directions, and even spoke with local people about their culture. Sarah told me later that she felt proud because she could manage her trip without help. This story is a reminder that English learning is not just about grammar, it is about communication and confidence. Now let me take you into another story about a farmer named Peter. Peter had a small farm with chickens and cows. He always woke up early to take care of his animals. One day his neighbor asked him, "Peter, how do you stay so disciplined every day?" Peter replied, "I know that if I do my work on time, everything else in my life becomes easier." That answer made his neighbor think deeply. The lesson here is that discipline and consistency are key, not just for farming, but for any goal, including learning English. If you listen to English every day, even for a short time, you will see progress, just like Peter saw results on his farm. Finally, I want to tell you a story about a little girl named Lily. Lily loved to write short stories in her notebook. One day, she showed one of her stories to her teacher. The teacher said, "Lily, your story is wonderful. Keep writing every day." Lily continued writing, and Years later, she became a writer. The story shows that encouragement and practice can change someone's life. So remember, whenever you feel shy or nervous about speaking English, remind yourself that practice will make you better, and encouragement, even from yourself, is powerful. There was once a man named Thomas. Thomas worked in a bakery every morning. He woke up at 5 o'clock to prepare bread for the people in his town. At first, Thomas thought baking was only about following recipes, but later he learned that timing was the most important part. If he left the bread in the oven too long, it became hard. If he took it out too early, it was not ready. One day, a customer named Mrs. Green told him, "Thomas, your bread is perfect today. It is soft inside and crispy outside." Thomas smiled and felt proud. He understood that success comes from paying attention and practicing every day, and that is the same with learning English. If you keep practicing every day, your English will become soft, natural, and perfect too. That small compliment gave Thomas a lot of motivation. He realized that small words of encouragement can give people energy to continue in English learning. When someone tells you, "Good job, your pronunciation is clear," it can also motivate you to keep practicing. Another story I want to share is about Maria and her husband. They opened a small shop selling clothes. In the beginning, very few people visited their shop, and Maria felt sad. She even thought about closing it. But her husband encouraged her, saying we should not give up so easily. Let us try new ideas. So Maria started greeting every customer with a warm smile and saying, "How can I help you today?" Slowly, more and more people came to the shop because they liked her friendly attitude. After 1 year there, business became successful. This story teaches us that polite phrases in English, like "How can I help you?" or "Is there anything you are looking for?" are powerful when you want to connect with others. Let me tell you about Ahmed, who moved to another country for work. On his first day at the office, he wanted to make friends with his new coworkers. During lunch, he sat next to James, a colleague, and said, "What do you usually eat for lunch here?" James laughed and replied, "I always eat sandwiches. It is quick and easy." That simple question started a conversation that later turned into a friendship. From this, you can learn that asking questions is one of the best ways to keep a conversation going. Questions like "Where are you from?" or "What do you like to do on weekends?" are easy but very useful. Now let us move to the story of Clara. Clara loved gardening. She spent hours taking care of her flowers and vegetables. One afternoon, her neighbor Daniel came over and asked Clara, "How do you make your garden so beautiful?" Clara explained step by step how she watered her plants, how she gave them sunlight, and how she used natural fertilizer. Daniel thanked her and started his own small garden. Later, Daniel told her, "Your advice helped me. My garden is growing well." The story of Clara shows the value of sharing knowledge. When you learn new English words or phrases, try to share them with others. Teaching and explaining will help you remember better. There was a man named Joseph who loved to travel. One summer, he and his wife visited a small village in the mountains. When they arrived, they found that very few people spoke English. Joseph wanted to buy fruit from a local market, so he pointed to apples and said slowly, "How much is this?" The seller smiled, understood, and showed him the price with his fingers. Even though Joseph's words were simple, he could still communicate. This is a good reminder that you do not need perfect grammar to speak English. Simple sentences like "How much is this?" or "Where is the bus station?" are very useful when traveling. Next, let us talk about Helen. Helen was a nurse, and she always worked hard at the hospital. She met many patients every day, and some of them felt scared or lonely. Helen used kind words like "You are going to be fine" or "I am here to help you." Those small sentences gave her patients comfort and hope. One patient told her, "Your words made me feel better even before the medicine." This shows us how important positive language is in your English practice. You can also use kind expressions like "Do not worry, everything will be okay," or "I believe you can do it." There was a carpenter named William. He made furniture in his workshop. One day, a customer asked him to make a large wooden table. William worked for several days, carefully cutting and shaping the wood. When the customer came to collect it, he said, "This table is Exactly what I wanted. Thank you, William. That moment made William very happy. The story shows that patience and hard work bring good results. Learning English is also like building a table. You need time, effort, and patience. But at the end, you will be proud of what you have made. Let us look at another story. A woman named Hannah wanted to become healthier. She decided to start walking every evening after dinner. At first, she could only walk for 10 minutes. But slowly she increased her time. After 3 months, she was able to walk for 1 hour without feeling tired. She felt stronger, happier, and more confident. This story teaches us that small steps every day lead to big changes. The same rule applies to learning English. If you practice a little every day, soon you will see great improvement. Her friends noticed and asked Hannah, "How did you become so active?" She answered, "I started with small steps and continued every day." The lesson here is that small efforts done regularly make big changes for English learners. If you practice 10 minutes a day, you will see progress in a few months. Another interesting story is about Mark, who worked as a driver. He drove a bus in the city every day. One day, a passenger got on the bus and did not have the correct money. Mark smiled and said, "It is okay next time." Remember, the passenger was surprised because he expected anger. The next day, the same man came back with the correct money and thanked Mark for his kindness. This story shows how kindness creates respect in English conversations. Using polite words like please, thank you, and you are welcome will always make people respect you. There was also a story of Olivia, who enjoyed reading. She borrowed books from the library every week. One day, she picked a book that was too difficult for her. At first, she thought of returning it, but then she decided to read slowly with a dictionary. She read only 1 page every day, but after some weeks, she understood the whole story. She felt proud of her progress. From Olivia's story, we learn that challenging ourselves is important. Sometimes reading or listening to something a little above your level will help you grow faster. Now let us hear about Michael. Michael was a farmer, but he also liked writing. He wrote short notes about his daily work. For example, he wrote, "Today, I planted seeds. Tomorrow, I will water them." Over time, he realized that writing in English helped him remember vocabulary better. He kept a small notebook where he wrote 2 or 3 sentences every day. Later, when he looked back, he could see his progress. This is a good practice for you as well. Write a few sentences daily about your life. It can be about cooking, working, or walking, but it will build your English step by step. Then there was Anna. Anna wanted to improve her speaking, but she felt shy. One day, she decided to practice with her cousin, who also wanted to learn. They made a simple rule: they would speak only in English for 10 minutes every evening. At first, it was very difficult, but later it became fun. They even started laughing when they made mistakes. After 2 months, Anna noticed that speaking became easier and more natural. This story shows the power of practicing with another person. You can choose a friend, a family member, or even practice speaking to yourself in front of a mirror. There was a man named Peter who worked in a small library every day. He arranged the books, helped people find what they needed, and answered questions. One day, a young boy named Leo came to the library looking sad. Peter asked, "What are you looking for?" Leo said, "I want a book about space, but I cannot read very well." Peter smiled and recommended a simple book with pictures. Leo started reading it slowly, and Peter checked on him every day. After a few weeks, Leo could read small sentences without help. Peter realized that patience and guidance could change someone's life. This teaches us that in learning English, asking for help and getting small guidance can make a big difference. Let me tell you about Sophia and her husband. Sophia's husband John liked to cook, but Sophia had never tried new recipes. One weekend, John suggested, "Let us try making pizza together." Sophia was nervous because she had never cooked before, but she agreed. They followed a simple recipe, added cheese, tomato, and vegetables, and baked it together. The pizza turned out delicious, and they laughed when it was ready. Sophia learned that trying new things with someone supportive makes learning easier. Similarly, practicing English with a supportive partner, whether a husband, friend, or family member, makes the learning process more enjoyable. There was also a story about Liam, a young man who worked in a post office every day. He helped people send letters and parcels. One day, an elderly man came in and asked Liam for help because he did not know how to fill the form. Liam carefully explained each step and said, "It is easy, do not worry." The man smiled and said, "Thank you, young man, you are very kind." Liam felt happy because he helped someone feel confident. From this, we learn that simple words of encouragement in English, like "you can do it" or "do not worry," can make a big difference in communication. Next, there was a woman named Emily who loved painting. She wanted to paint landscapes, but she did not know where to start. Her husband Paul suggested start with a small garden outside our house. Emily followed his advice and painted flowers, trees, and the sky. She showed the painting to her friends, and they said it was beautiful. Emily felt proud and continued practicing every day. The lesson here is that starting small and practicing consistently is the key in English learning. You can begin with small sentences and simple conversations, and gradually your skills will improve. Let us hear about a man named Andrew. Andrew worked as a taxi driver. One evening, he picked up a passenger named Rachel. Rachel was visiting the city for the first time and did not speak much English. Andrew tried to speak slowly, saying, "Do you need a map?" Rachel nodded and showed her hotel address. By using simple words and clear sentences, Andrew helped her reach safely. This story reminds us that clear and slow English is very effective when communicating with someone who is not fluent. You do not need complex grammar or long sentences to be understood. Another story is about Clara and her husband Michael. They decided to plant a small vegetable garden on their balcony. Michael bought seeds, soil, and pots. Clara said, "I hope we can grow something." They planted tomatoes, carrots, and herbs. Every day they watered the plants and watched them grow. After 2 months, they harvested fresh vegetables. Clara told Michael, "I never thought we could do this, but we did it together." This story teaches us that teamwork, patience, and consistent effort can lead to results. Similarly, in learning English, practicing with a partner or studying regularly will give good results over time. There was a young man named Jack who liked sports. He joined a local football club, but he was shy and did not speak much English. One day the coach asked him, "Can you pass the ball to me?" Jack hesitated, but he said, "Yes, I can." After that small sentence, he began speaking more with his teammates. Slowly, he became more confident not only in football but also in English. This story shows that starting with small sentences in everyday situations builds confidence. You can use phrases like "Can I help you?" or "I like this" to start practicing English in real life. Let me tell you about a woman named Lucy who worked as a teacher. Lucy wanted her students to speak English confidently. She told them, "Speak, do not worry about mistakes. Mistakes are part of learning." One of her students, Ahmed, was very shy at first, but he started answering questions. Over time, he became one of the most confident speakers in the class. This story reminds us that practice and a positive attitude are more important than perfection. Do not be afraid of mistakes because they are part of learning English. Now there was a man named Henry who loved reading newspapers every morning. He wanted to improve his English vocabulary, so he decided to underline new words and look them up. He also wrote simple sentences with these words. For example, if he learned the word environment, he wrote, "I like to protect the environment." Slowly his vocabulary improved, and he could speak more fluently. This story shows that small daily efforts like learning a few new words every day make a big difference in English learning. Next, I want to share a story about Anna and her husband Thomas. They decided to visit a museum in their city. When they arrived, they saw many people reading information cards in English. Thomas said, "Let us read one card and try to understand it." They read slowly, discussed the meaning, and learned new words. By the end of the visit, they could understand most cards. This shows that learning English can be fun when combined with activities you enjoy. You can visit markets, museums, or parks and try to read signs, labels, or simple instructions in English. There was a man named Samuel who loved fishing every weekend. He went to the river near his town. One day a boy named Alex asked him, "Can I try fishing too?" Samuel smiled and said, "Of course, I will show you how." He taught Alex how to throw the line and catch small fish. Alex was Very happy and thanked Samuel. This story shows that teaching and sharing knowledge helps both the teacher and the learner in English. You can explain words or sentences to someone else, even if you are not an expert yet. It helps you remember and practice at the same time. Another story is about Julia. Julia wanted to improve her listening skills. She decided to listen to English every day for 20 minutes while doing household chores. At first, she could not understand much, but she kept listening regularly. After a few months, she noticed that she understood more and more. She could follow conversations and even repeat some sentences. This story shows the importance of regular listening practice. Even short daily sessions will help your English improve steadily. Let me tell you about a man named Robert who worked in a small cafe. Robert wanted to communicate better with his customers. He started practicing simple phrases like, "What would you like to drink?" or "Do you need a menu?" At first, he felt nervous, but his customers smiled and responded kindly. After a few weeks, Robert became confident and serving customers in English became easy. This story reminds us that practicing useful daily phrases is very effective. You can choose phrases related to your work, shopping, or traveling and practice them every day. There was a woman named Helen who loved helping people. She volunteered at a local clinic where many patients spoke English. Helen decided to learn simple medical phrases like, "Are you feeling better?" or "Take this medicine twice a day." By practicing these sentences, she could communicate with patients easily. Helen said, "It is very satisfying to help someone and speak English at the same time." This shows that using English in real-life situations gives motivation and purpose. Another story is about a man named Kevin. Kevin wanted to write emails in English for work. At first, he struggled to find the right words. He started using simple templates like, "Dear Mr. Smith, I hope you are well, and I am writing to ask about overtime." He learned new ways to express ideas politely and clearly. After a few months, Kevin was able to write emails confidently without templates. This story shows that learning English step by step using simple tools at first is effective and practical. Then there was a woman named Lisa who enjoyed cooking. She decided to watch English cooking videos to improve her listening skills. At first, she could only understand a few words, but she kept watching and repeating sentences. Later, she could follow the whole recipe. She also practiced speaking by explaining the steps to her husband, Mark. This story teaches that combining listening and speaking practice with something you enjoy makes learning English more interesting and effective. There was a man named George who worked in a small bakery in his town. Every morning, he woke up early to bake fresh bread and pastries. One day, a customer asked him, "How do you make your bread so soft?" George smiled and said, "I use fresh ingredients and follow the recipe." Carefully, the customer nodded and said, "I will try baking at home too." This story shows that sharing knowledge and simple explanations can help others and also boost your confidence in English. Explaining small things in simple words helps you practice speaking naturally. Next, let us talk about a woman named Rachel and her husband Paul. They decided to start a small garden on their balcony. At first, they only planted a few flowers and herbs. Every morning, they watered the plants together and talked about their plans. After a few weeks, the garden started to grow beautifully. Rachel said, "I never thought this would be so enjoyable." This story teaches us that small daily habits, when done consistently, lead to success in English learning. Practicing every day, even for a few minutes, will create noticeable improvement over time. There was a young man named Daniel who worked in a local library. He liked reading, but he also wanted to improve his English speaking skills. One day, he decided to talk to a visitor who was looking for a book. He asked, "Are you looking for a specific book?" The visitor smiled and replied, "Yes, I need a book about history." Daniel helped him find it. After that day, Daniel started greeting more visitors and asking simple questions. This shows that starting with small sentences like, "Can I help you?" or "Where is the section for books?" is very useful for daily English practice. Now let us hear a story about Emma. Emma wanted to learn how to cook new dishes for her husband John. She started with simple recipes like vegetable soup and scrambled eggs. At first, she made mistakes, but John encouraged her, saying, "It is okay, we can try again." Over time, her cooking improved, and she even tried baking a cake successfully. This story reminds us that practice and patience are essential for learning anything new. Similarly, in English, making mistakes is normal, and each attempt improves your skills. There was a man named Thomas who enjoyed traveling. He wanted to visit a new city, but he was worried about speaking English. During his trip, he practiced small sentences like, "Where is the bus station?" and "How much is the ticket?" He discovered that people understood him, and he could enjoy the trip without difficulty. This story teaches us that simple sentences are often enough for communication. You do not need perfect grammar to make yourself understood. Another story is about Anna and her husband Michael. They decided to volunteer at a local animal shelter. At first, Anna was nervous because she did not know how to talk to strangers in English. Her husband said, "Just start with hello and simple questions." Anna followed his advice and asked questions like, "Can I help feed the animals?" and "Where do I put the food?" The staff smiled and guided her. After a few weeks, Anna became confident speaking English while helping others. This shows that learning English is easier when you use it in real situations. Let me tell you about Robert, who worked as a driver. One morning, he picked up a passenger named Sarah who needed directions. Robert spoke slowly and said, "Which street do you want to go to?" Sarah explained her destination, and Robert helped her find the way. The passenger thanked him, saying, "You speak English very clearly." Robert felt happy because he realized that speaking slowly and clearly makes communication effective. This is a useful tip for all English learners. There was a young woman named Clara who loved painting. She wanted to learn English words related to art. Every day, she practiced describing her paintings with her husband Peter. She said, "This flower is red," or "The sky is blue." Peter listened carefully and asked questions, helping her use new words. After a few months, Clara could describe her paintings in English confidently. This story teaches us that combining hobbies with English practice makes learning more fun and effective. Next, let us talk about a man named William. William worked in a small shop selling vegetables. Every day, he practiced simple sentences with customers like, "Do you want tomatoes?" or "How much do you need?" At first, he felt nervous, but his customers smiled and responded slowly. William became confident speaking English at work. This story shows that using English in daily activities, even simple phrases, improves communication skills quickly. There was a woman named Hannah who wanted to improve her listening skills. She started listening to short English podcasts every morning while making breakfast. At first, she could understand only a few words, but she did not give up. She listened carefully and repeated the sentences slowly. After a few months, she could understand most of the podcast without stopping. This story teaches us that consistent listening practice develops understanding, and patience is important. Let me tell you a story about Jack. Jack wanted to read English books, but some words were difficult for him. He decided to underline new words and look up their meanings in a dictionary. He also wrote sentences using the new words like, "I like to visit the park," or "My favorite food is rice." Over time, Jack noticed that he could understand more sentences and even speak better. This story shows that combining reading, writing, and speaking is an effective way to learn English. There was a man named David who loved sports. He joined a local football team, but he was shy and could not speak much English. One day, the coach asked him, "Can you pass the ball?" David replied, "Yes, I can." And after that, he started talking more with his teammates. Over time, he became confident both in football and in speaking English. The story teaches that even small sentences can help you start communicating and build confidence. Another story is about Emily. Emily wanted to visit a new city, but she was worried about asking for directions in English. She practiced sentences like, "Excuse me, where is the bus station?" and "How much is a ticket?" During her trip, she used these sentences confidently. People understood her, and she enjoyed her visit. This story shows that memorizing and practicing useful phrases for travel or daily life can make learning English practical and less stressful. He encouraged her to keep practicing, and over time, Olivia became confident describing her artwork in English. She even started labeling her paintings with English titles. This story teaches that learning vocabulary related to your interests or hobbies makes English practice more enjoyable and memorable. There was a man named Henry who enjoyed reading newspapers every morning. He wanted to expand his English vocabulary, so he underlined new words and looked up their meanings. He then wrote simple sentences using those words, such as, "I like to read the newspaper every day," or "clean air helps the environment." After a few months, Henry noticed that he could read and understand more without using a dictionary. This story shows that small, consistent learning habits help you improve gradually. Next, let's talk about a woman named Clara who worked as a shop assistant. She met many customers from different countries, and she wanted to communicate with them better. Every day, she practiced polite English phrases like, "How can I help you?" and "Would you like a bag?" At first, she made small mistakes, but her customers smiled and appreciated her effort. With time, Clara spoke more confidently and even helped train new workers. This story shows that using polite and simple English in real situations is an effective way to improve communication. There was a young man named Adam who wanted to improve his pronunciation. He practiced speaking by reading English aloud every evening. He recorded his voice and listened to it to find areas for improvement. Gradually, his pronunciation became clearer and his confidence grew. This story shows that practicing aloud and listening to yourself can help you sound more natural when speaking English. Another story is about Emily and her friend Sarah. They decided to practice English together for 10 minutes each day. They spoke about simple topics like food, hobbies, and their plans for the weekend. At first, they laughed at their mistakes, but soon, they started speaking more fluently. After a few months, they could have longer conversations without stopping. This story teaches that regular practice with a friend makes learning English fun and effective. There was a man named George who worked in a bakery. Every morning, he greeted his customers with a smile and said, "Good morning. What would you like today?" Over time, he learned new words for cakes, bread, and pastries. His friendly attitude made customers feel welcome, and he enjoyed practicing English while working. This story reminds us that even simple daily conversations help build confidence and fluency. Next, we have a story about Lily. Lily wanted to improve her English listening and speaking skills, so she started watching short English videos with subtitles. At first, she could only understand a few sentences, but she watched the same video several times, repeating the words aloud. After a few weeks, she noticed great improvement in both listening and pronunciation. This story teaches that repetition and consistency are key to mastering a new language. There was a man named Andrew who liked to travel. When he visited new places, he practiced asking for directions, ordering food, and greeting people in English. Sometimes he made mistakes, but people were friendly and helped him. He realized that confidence is more important than perfection. This story shows that using English in real-life situations builds practical communication skills. Finally, there was a woman named Grace who loved learning. She set a goal to learn 5 new English words every day. She wrote each word on a small card with an example sentence. Every evening, she reviewed the cards and used the new words in short sentences. After several months, she had learned hundreds of words and could speak more naturally. This story teaches that setting small, consistent goals leads to big improvement over time. There was a woman named Olivia who loved painting. She wanted to learn English words about colors and shapes. Every day, she described her paintings to her husband, Michael. She said things like the sky is blue or the tree is green. Michael listened and helped her with pronunciation. After a few months, Olivia could describe all her paintings confidently in English. This story shows that combining hobbies with English practice is fun and helps learning faster. There was a young man named Peter who worked in a small fruit shop. He practiced simple English sentences with customers like "Do you want apples?" or "How much do you need?" At first, he was nervous, but customers smiled and spoke kindly. After some weeks, Peter felt confident speaking English at work. This story teaches that using English in daily life helps you learn quickly and naturally. There was a woman named Hannah who wanted to improve her listening skills. She decided to listen to English podcasts for 20 minutes every day while doing housework. In the beginning, she understood only a few words, but she kept listening every day. After a few months, she could understand most of the conversations and repeat many sentences. This story shows that daily listening practice is very important for improving English comprehension. There was a man named Lucas who loved reading newspapers. He wanted to learn more English words, so he underlined new words and made sentences with them. For example, when he learned the word important, he wrote it as important to exercise every day. After some months, Lucas noticed that he could understand more articles and express his ideas better in English. This story shows that learning new words every day and using them in sentences helps you remember them for a long time. There was a woman named Emily who wanted to travel to another city. She was worried about asking for directions in English. So she practiced phrases like "Excuse me, where is the bus station?" and "How much is a ticket?" When she traveled, she used these phrases and people understood her. Emily felt happy and confident. This story shows that practicing simple and useful sentences helps you communicate in real-life situations. There was a man named Adam who worked in a library. He wanted to talk with visitors in English. He started with easy questions like "Are you looking for a book?" and "Can I help you?" After some time, he became more confident and began to talk about favorite books and authors. This story shows that starting with simple sentences helps you move to more natural conversations later. There was a woman named Julia who wanted to improve her speaking skills. She practiced English with her husband Paul for 10 minutes every day. They talked about meals, the weather, and daily life. At first, Julia was shy, but after a few weeks, she could speak more freely and share her thoughts confidently. This story shows that short daily speaking practice builds fluency over time. There was a young man named Kevin who needed to write emails in English for his job. In the beginning, he had trouble with grammar and vocabulary. He used simple email templates like "Dear Mr. Smith, I hope you are well. I am writing to ask." After practicing for some time, he could write emails clearly without help. This story teaches that starting simple and practicing often helps you learn professional English easily. There was a couple named Laura and Thomas. They visited a museum and decided to read all the information cards in English. They started slowly and discussed one card at a time. By the end of the visit, they could understand most of the cards and even explain them to each other. This story shows that learning English through fun activities makes studying more enjoyable and effective. There was a man named Samuel who loved fishing. He taught a young boy named Ben how to fish. Samuel explained each step slowly and carefully. Ben caught his first fish and was very happy. He thanked Samuel for his help. This story shows that teaching others helps you learn better too. When you explain something in English, you understand it more deeply. There was a woman named Anna who wanted to improve her listening skills. She listened to English podcasts every day while walking in the park. At first, she could understand only a few words, but she continued listening carefully. After several weeks, she could follow most of the talks easily. This story shows that regular listening practice, even for a short time, helps you improve a lot. There was a man named Robert who worked in a cafe. He wanted to speak better English with customers. He practiced simple sentences like "What would you like to drink?" and "Do you need a menu?" After a few weeks, he spoke more confidently and customers liked his politeness. This story teaches that practicing useful phrases helps you communicate better in real life. There was a woman named Helen who volunteered at a small clinic. She wanted to use English to help patients. She practiced sentences like, "Are you feeling better?" and "Take this medicine twice a day." After practicing every day, she could speak confidently with patients and help them easily. This story shows that using English in real situations gives purpose and motivation. There was a man named Daniel who worked in a small bookstore. Every day, he helped customers find books and answered questions. One day, a little girl named Lucy came to the shop. She wanted a book about animals. Daniel asked, "Do you like stories about wild animals or pets?" Lucy said, "I like pets, especially cats." Daniel showed her a book with colorful pictures and simple sentences. Lucy smiled and said, "Thank you, I will read this every day." This story shows that asking simple questions and giving clear answers helps people communicate well in English. All these stories teach one big lesson. English learning becomes easier when you practice every day in small ways. You can write, read, listen, speak, or teach someone else. You can learn through hobbies, work, travel, or even daily tasks. The most important thing is to stay consistent and enjoy the process. There was a woman named Emily and her husband Peter. They decided to start a small garden on their balcony. They planted tomatoes, carrots, and lettuce. Every morning, they watered the plants together and watched them grow. After a few weeks, the vegetables began to grow well. Emily smiled and said she never thought they could do it. This story teaches us that small efforts done every day bring success over time. In the same way, practicing English daily, even for a few minutes, helps you improve step by step. There was a young man named Adam who loved cycling. He wanted to explore his city, but he felt nervous about asking for directions in English. One day, he stopped a man on the street and said, "Excuse me, where is the park?" The man smiled kindly and showed him the way on a map. Adam thanked him and found the park easily. This story shows that even simple English phrases are enough to communicate with others. You do not need perfect grammar to be understood. Now let's hear about a woman named Sarah. She loved painting and wanted to describe her pictures in English. She practiced with her husband John. She said things like, "The tree is green" or "The sun is yellow." John asked her questions and Sarah answered carefully. After a few weeks, she could describe all her paintings with confidence. This story teaches that combining hobbies with English practice makes learning more enjoyable and effective. There was a man named Thomas who worked in a cafe. He wanted to speak English better with his customers. He practiced useful sentences every day, such as, "What would you like to drink?" and "Do you need a menu?" At first, he was shy, but with practice, he became confident. Customers liked his polite way of speaking. This story shows that using English in real-life situations, even with short and simple sentences, helps you build confidence and fluency. Next, there was a woman named Anna. She wanted to improve her listening skills. Every morning, while she did her household chores, she listened to short English podcasts. In the beginning, she could understand only a few words. But she continued practicing every day. After a few months, she could understand most conversations and even repeat some sentences correctly. This story teaches that regular listening practice brings real improvement in understanding English. There was a young man named James who worked as a delivery driver. He wanted to ask customers simple questions in English while delivering packages. He practiced sentences like, "Is this the correct address?" and "Do you need a signature?" At first, he was nervous, but customers were friendly and responded politely. Over time, James spoke with confidence during his deliveries. This story teaches that practicing short, useful phrases for work helps you communicate better and feel more confident. Let's hear about a woman named Helen. She volunteered at a small clinic. She wanted to learn simple English sentences to talk with patients. She practiced phrases like, "Are you feeling better?" and "Take this medicine twice a day." After some time, she could speak clearly and help patients with confidence. This story shows that using English in real-life situations gives you purpose and motivation to keep learning. There was a man named Robert who loved fishing. He often went fishing with his nephew Ben. Robert explained each step slowly and carefully. He showed Ben how to use the fishing rod and how to wait patiently. After some time, Ben caught his first fish and was very happy. He thanked Robert for his help. This story shows that teaching others helps you learn better. When you explain something in English, you understand it more deeply yourself. There was a woman named Julia who wanted to improve her writing skills. Every day, she wrote a short diary about her day. She wrote sentences like "I walked in the park" or "I ate rice for lunch." After several weeks, she noticed that her writing became smoother and her ideas were clearer. This story shows that writing daily helps you remember words, grammar, and sentence structure naturally. There was a young man named Michael who worked in a small office. He needed to write professional emails in English. At first, he struggled with grammar and word choice. He used simple email patterns such as "Dear Mr. Smith, I hope you are well, I am writing to ask." After practicing regularly, he could write emails clearly and politely without help. This story teaches that starting simple and practicing often is the best way to learn professional English writing. There was a woman named Lucy who wanted to travel to a new city. She was worried about speaking English with taxi drivers. So she practiced sentences like "How much is the taxi and can you take me to this address?" When she finally took her trip, she used these sentences confidently. The drivers understood her and helped her easily. Lucy felt happy and proud. This story shows that memorizing and practicing useful phrases helps you speak naturally in real life. There was a man named Daniel who worked in a small post office. He wanted to talk with customers in English. He practiced simple questions like "Do you want to send this package?" and "What is the address?" At first, he spoke slowly, but after some time, he became confident and clear. Customers appreciated his effort. This story teaches that practicing short sentences every day helps you speak comfortably in real situations. Next, there was a woman named Rachel. She wanted to improve her listening skills. She listened to English radio programs while walking in the park. At first, she understood only a few words. But she continued listening every day. After several weeks, she could follow most of the conversations easily. This story shows that listening regularly helps your ears and mind get used to English sounds. There was a young man named Alex who worked in a small grocery shop. He wanted to speak English better with customers. He practiced simple sentences like "Do you want 2 or 3 apples?" and "How much do you need?" Slowly, Alex became confident and friendly with his customers. This story teaches that daily practice of practical sentences is a powerful and easy way to improve English skills. There was a woman named Emma who loved cooking. She wanted to use her hobby to practice English. She watched English cooking videos and repeated the instructions aloud. At first, she could only say a few words. But after a few weeks, she could explain whole recipes to her husband Peter. She felt proud of her progress. This story shows that combining something you enjoy with English practice makes learning more fun and effective. All of these stories teach one simple idea. English learning does not need to be difficult. If you practice a little every day, you will improve. You can read, write, listen, or speak. You can learn through your hobbies, your work, or your daily life. The most important thing is to keep going, enjoy the process, and never give up. Every small effort you make will help you move forward in your English journey. There was a man named Samuel who loved sports. He joined a local football team, but he was shy and nervous about speaking English. One day, the coach asked him if he could pass the ball. Samuel said, "Yes, I can." That small sentence gave him confidence. After that day, he started talking more with his teammates. With time, he became confident both in playing football and in speaking English. This story teaches us that starting with small and simple sentences can help build confidence. Next, there was a woman named Anna and her husband Thomas. They decided to visit a museum and read the information cards in English. They started slowly, discussing one card at a time. At first, it was difficult, but they helped each other understand new words. By the end of the visit, they could understand most of the cards and even explain some to each other. This story shows that combining English practice with enjoyable activities makes learning more interesting and effective. There was a man named Robert who worked in a cafe. He practiced useful English phrases every day, such as "What would you like to drink?" and "Do you want sugar?" At first, he was shy, but after using these sentences many times, he spoke more confidently with customers. People appreciated his kindness and effort. This story shows that practicing practical English phrases every day helps you improve fluency and confidence in real-life situations. A woman named Helen volunteered at a local clinic. She wanted to speak simple English with patients, so she practiced sentences like "Are you feeling better?" and "Take this medicine twice a day." She repeated these phrases often until she could say them naturally. After some time, she could communicate comfortably with patients and help them with confidence. This story shows that using English for real purposes gives motivation and helps you learn faster. There was a young man named Kevin who wanted to read English books, but many words were new to him. He started underlining difficult words and writing sentences with them. Each day, he practiced and reviewed what he learned. After several weeks, his vocabulary and reading skills improved. This story teaches that combining reading, writing, and practicing new words is a very effective way to learn English. There was a man named Nathan who worked in a small clothing store. Every day, he helped customers choose clothes and sizes. One day, a customer asked if he had a shirt in blue. Nathan replied that they had it in both blue and green, and he asked which color the customer liked. The customer smiled and said that he would take blue. Nathan felt proud because he could help someone confidently using simple English. This story shows that short and clear sentences work very well in everyday conversations. Next, there was a woman named Laura and her husband David. They decided to learn baking together. Laura practiced making cookies and David tried baking bread. Every evening, they practiced new recipes and encouraged each other. At first, they made mistakes, but after a few weeks, they could bake delicious bread and cookies without using instructions. This story teaches that practice and patience, along with support from someone close, make learning both enjoyable and successful. In English learning, practicing with a partner also helps you improve faster. There was a young man named Ryan who loved photography. He wanted to share his photos online, but he needed English to describe them. He started with simple sentences like "This is a sunset" or "I took this picture yesterday." Slowly, he added more words and details to describe colors, feelings, and places. After a few months, he could write longer descriptions and reply to comments confidently. This story shows that starting with short sentences and gradually expanding your vocabulary helps you learn English naturally. Now, there was a woman named Sophie who enjoyed gardening. She planted flowers, tomatoes, and herbs with her husband Peter. Every morning, they watered the plants together and watched them grow. Sophie smiled and said that she never knew gardening could be so relaxing. This story teaches that consistent effort and teamwork bring good results. In the same way, practicing English a little every day leads to steady improvement over time. There was a man named Thomas who worked as a taxi driver. One day, a passenger named Maria asked him for directions to a hotel. Thomas spoke slowly and asked which street her hotel was on. Maria explained, and Thomas helped her reach her destination safely. This story shows that speaking clearly and using simple English sentences is very effective in real life. You do not need complex grammar to communicate well. Next, There was a woman named Emma who loved painting. She wanted to describe her artwork in English. She practiced with her husband Mark, saying sentences like the tree is green or the sky is orange. Mark asked questions and Emma answered them. Over time, she learned new words and improved her pronunciation. After a few weeks, she could describe her paintings with confidence. This story teaches that mixing hobbies with English practice makes learning more fun and practical. There was a young man named Peter who worked in a small fruit shop. He practiced English by asking simple questions to customers like, "Do you want apples?" and "How many do you need?" At first, he spoke slowly, but after some time, he felt comfortable talking to people in English. Customers smiled and responded kindly. This story shows that using English in daily life, even for simple tasks, helps improve fluency over time. Let me tell you about a woman named Hannah. She wanted to improve her listening skills, so she listened to English podcasts for 20 minutes every day while cleaning her house. At first, she could understand only a few words. But she continued listening every day. After a few months, she could understand most of what she heard and could even repeat full sentences correctly. This story shows that daily listening practice is very important for improving English comprehension. There was a man named Lucas who loved reading newspapers. He wanted to learn new vocabulary, so whenever he found a new word, he underlined it and wrote a sentence using it. For example, when he learned the word important, he wrote it as important to exercise every day. After several weeks, Lucas noticed a big improvement in his reading and writing skills. This story teaches that using new words in sentences helps you remember them for a long time. Next, there was a woman named Emily. She wanted to travel to another city, but she was nervous about speaking English. She practiced useful travel sentences such as "Excuse me, where is the bus station, and how much is a ticket?" When she finally traveled, she used these sentences confidently, and people understood her easily. Emily felt proud and enjoyed her trip. This story shows that learning and practicing useful English phrases for travel helps you communicate comfortably in real-life situations. There was a man named Adam who worked in a small library. He wanted to speak confidently with visitors, so he practiced questions like, "Are you looking for a book, and can I help you?" Slowly, Adam began to chat more with visitors, talking about favorite books and authors. This story shows that starting with small, practical sentences helps build confidence for more natural conversations. Another story is about Julia. She wanted to improve her speaking skills. Every day, she practiced English with her husband Paul for 10 minutes. They talked about simple topics such as meals, the weather, and daily routines. At first, Julia was shy, but after a few weeks, she could speak more freely and confidently. This story teaches that short daily speaking practice strengthens fluency. There was a young man named Kevin who wanted to write emails in English for work. He started with simple templates such as, "Dear Mr. Smith, I hope you are well. I am writing to ask." After practicing regularly, he could write emails clearly and politely without using templates. This story shows that starting simple and practicing consistently is an effective way to build professional English skills. Let's hear about Laura and her husband Thomas. They visited a museum and read the information cards in English. They started slowly, discussing one card at a time. By the end of the visit, they could understand most of the cards and explain them to each other. This story shows that learning English can be combined with hobbies, making practice more enjoyable and effective. There was a man named Samuel who loved fishing. He taught his nephew Ben how to fish. Samuel explained each step carefully and helped Ben catch his first fish. Ben was very happy and thanked him. This story shows that teaching others helps you remember what you've learned. Similarly, explaining words or sentences to someone else strengthens your understanding of English. Next, there was a woman named Anna. She wanted to improve her listening skills, so she listened to English podcasts every day while walking in the park. At first, she could understand only a few words, but she kept listening regularly. After several weeks, her comprehension improved, and she could follow most of the conversations. This story emphasizes that consistent listening practice is essential for English improvement. There was a man named Robert who worked in a cafe. He practiced English phrases like, "What would you like to drink?" and "Do you want sugar?" Every day, he spoke more confidently with customers. This story shows that practicing practical sentences daily improves fluency in real-life situations. A woman named Helen volunteered at a local clinic. She learned useful sentences such as, "Are you feeling better?" and "Take this medicine twice a day." By practicing regularly, she could communicate comfortably with patients. This story teaches that using English in real-life situations motivates learning and builds confidence. There was a young man named Kevin who wanted to read English books, but he found many words difficult. He underlined new words and wrote sentences using them. After several weeks, he noticed that his vocabulary and reading comprehension had improved. This story shows that combining reading, writing, and vocabulary practice is effective for learning English. Next, there was a couple named Mia and Alex. They decided to learn English together while cooking. Mia read the recipe aloud in English, and Alex followed the steps. At first, they understood only a few words, but over time, they could follow the entire recipe confidently. This story shows that combining daily activities with English practice makes learning both practical and fun. There was a man named Daniel who enjoyed cycling. He wanted to ask for directions in English while exploring a new city. He practiced sentences like, "Excuse me, where is the park?" and "How far is the station?" Using these sentences, he traveled confidently and enjoyed his trip. This story shows that practicing simple English phrases prepares you for everyday situations. There was a woman named Clara who loved baking. She wanted to improve her English while learning new recipes. Every day, she read English recipe books aloud and practiced speaking the instructions to her husband, Mark. At first, she could say only a few words, but after a few weeks, she could explain the entire recipe in English. This story shows that combining hobbies with English practice makes learning more enjoyable and effective. Next, there was a man named Jason who worked as a delivery driver. He wanted to ask questions in English when delivering packages. He practiced sentences such as, "Is this the correct address and do you need a signature?" At first, he felt nervous, but his customers were friendly and polite. Over time, Jason became confident speaking English during work. This story teaches that practicing useful phrases for daily tasks helps you improve English quickly. There was a young woman named Anna who wanted to improve her listening skills. She listened to English podcasts every morning while walking around her neighborhood. At first, she could understand only a few words, but she continued every day. After several months, she could follow most conversations without difficulty. This story emphasizes that consistent listening practice is the key to understanding English better. Finally, there was a man named Michael who worked in a small bookstore. There was a man named Adam who worked in a small library. He wanted to speak English confidently with visitors. He started by asking simple questions like, "Are you looking for a book?" and "Do you need help finding this author?" Gradually, he became more confident and began discussing books with customers. Naturally, this story shows that small sentences can gradually lead to fluent communication. There was a woman named Sarah who loved painting. She wanted to describe her paintings in English. She practiced with her husband Thomas, saying sentences like, "The flowers are red and the sky is blue." Thomas asked questions, and Sarah answered carefully. After a few weeks, she could describe all her paintings confidently. This story shows that combining hobbies with language practice helps make learning enjoyable and practical. Next, there was a man named David who worked in a cafe. He practiced English phrases like, "What would you like to drink?" and "Do you want sugar?" Every day, he spoke more confidently with customers. His polite and clear communication made customers happy. This story shows that using English in daily life builds confidence and fluency, even with simple phrases. A young man named Lucas loved reading newspapers, but wanted to learn more vocabulary. He underlined new words and wrote sentences with them, such as, "It is important to eat healthy food every day." After several weeks, Lucas noticed his vocabulary and reading comprehension had improved significantly. This story teaches that actively using new words in sentences strengthens memory and improves English. Let's hear a story about a woman named Julia. She wanted to travel to another city, but was nervous about asking for directions. She practiced sentences like, "Excuse me, where is the bus station?" and "How much is a ticket?" When she traveled, she used these phrases confidently, and people understood her easily. This story shows that learning and practicing useful phrases prepares you for real-life situations. There was a man named Thomas who worked in a small post office. He wanted to speak English with customers more confidently. He practiced sentences like, "Do you want to send this package?" and "What is the address?" Over time, Thomas could communicate comfortably, and customers appreciated his clarity. This story teaches that starting with short sentences builds confidence for practical communication. Next, let's talk about a woman named Emily. She wanted to improve her listening skills, so she listened to English radio programs while cooking. At first, she could understand only a few words, but she continued daily. After several weeks, her comprehension improved significantly. This story emphasizes that consistent listening is essential for improving English skills. A young man named Alex worked in a grocery shop and wanted to speak English better with customers. He practiced sentences like, "Do you want 2 or 3 apples?" and "How much do you need?" Slowly, Alex became confident in his communication. This story shows that daily practice of practical sentences helps build real-life English skills. There was a woman named Emma who wanted to combine cooking with English practice. She watched English cooking videos and tried to repeat the instructions aloud. At first, she could only say a few words, but after weeks of practice, she could explain full recipes to her husband, Peter. This story teaches that combining enjoyable activities with English learning makes the process more effective. Next, there was a man named Samuel who loved sports and joined a local football team. He was shy and nervous about speaking English with his teammates. One day, the coach asked him, "Can you pass the ball?" Samuel replied, "Yes, I can." After that small sentence, he started communicating more and became confident both in football and in English. This story shows that even short, simple sentences help build confidence. There was a woman named Anna and her husband Thomas. They visited a museum and decided to read the information cards in English. They started slowly, discussing one card at a time. By the end of the visit, they could understand most cards and explain them to each other. This story teaches that combining learning with enjoyable activities strengthens understanding and retention. A man named Robert worked in a cafe and practiced English phrases like, "What would you like to drink?" and "Do you want milk or sugar?" Each day, he spoke more confidently with customers. This story shows that regular use of practical sentences improves fluency and confidence. Next, a woman named Helen volunteered at a clinic. She learned English phrases like, "Are you feeling better?" and "Take this medicine twice a day." By practicing daily, she could communicate comfortably with patients. This story demonstrates that applying English in real-life situations is motivating and builds confidence. There was a young man named Kevin who wanted to read English books, but struggled with many words. He underlined new words and wrote sentences with them. After weeks of practice, he noticed that his vocabulary and reading comprehension improved. This story teaches that combining reading, writing, and using new words strengthens English skills. Let's hear a story about Mia and her husband Alex. They decided to learn English together while cooking meals. Mia read the recipe aloud in English, and Alex followed the steps. At first, they understood only a few words, but over time, they could follow the entire recipe confidently. This story shows that integrating English practice into daily life makes learning practical and enjoyable. There was a man named Daniel who loved cycling. He wanted to ask for directions in English while exploring a new city. He practiced sentences like, "Excuse me, where is the park?" and "How far is the train station?" Using these sentences, he traveled confidently and enjoyed his trip. This story teaches that practicing simple English phrases prepares you for everyday situations. Next, a woman named Clara wanted to improve her English while baking cakes. She read the instructions aloud and practiced explaining each step to her husband, Mark. At first, she could say only a few words, but after weeks of practice, she could explain the entire process confidently. This story shows that combining hobbies with English learning improves speaking skills naturally. There was a man named Oliver who worked in a small bakery. Every morning, he greeted customers and offered different types of bread. One day, a customer asked, "Do you have whole wheat bread?" Oliver replied, "Yes, we have fresh bread. Would you like a loaf?" The customer smiled and said, "I'll take one, please." This story shows that using short, clear sentences is enough for effective communication in everyday life. There was a woman named Sophia and her husband David. They decided to start jogging every morning together. Sophia said, "It is good for our health." David smiled and said, "Yes, and it keeps us energetic." Every morning, they encouraged each other to keep running. At first, they could only jog for a few minutes, but after a few weeks, they could run longer distances without stopping. This story teaches that consistent practice and teamwork help you improve. The same is true for English. If you practice a little every day, your skills will grow over time. There was a young man named Ryan who loved photography. He wanted to share his photos online in English. At first, he wrote short sentences like, "This is a mountain," or "I took this picture today." Later, he started adding more words and details such as, "This beautiful mountain was covered with snow," or "I took this picture during my trip last weekend." After a few months, Ryan could write full descriptions and reply to comments in English confidently. This story shows that starting with simple sentences and slowly adding new words helps you learn naturally. There was a woman named Lily who enjoyed gardening with her husband Thomas. They planted vegetables and flowers on their balcony. Every morning, they watered the plants and watched them grow. After several weeks, the plants became strong and green. Lily smiled and said, "I feel proud that we did this together." This story shows that teamwork, patience, and daily effort bring great results. Practicing English every day, even for a short time, helps you make the same kind of progress. There was a man named James who worked as a bus driver. One morning, a tourist named Maria asked him for directions to a museum. James spoke slowly and clearly, "Which street do you want to go to?" Maria explained, and James guided her kindly. She thanked him with a smile. This story shows that using clear and simple English is enough for good communication in daily life. There was a woman named Emma who loved painting. She wanted to learn English words to describe her pictures. Every day, she talked to her husband Mark while showing her paintings. She said things like, "The sky is blue and the flowers are red." Mark asked her questions, and Emma answered carefully. After several weeks, she could describe all her paintings in English with confidence. This story shows that combining hobbies with English practice makes learning enjoyable and useful. There was a young man named Peter who worked in a small fruit shop. He practiced English with his customers. He asked, "Do you want bananas?" or "How many do you need?" At first, he was nervous, but every day he spoke a little more. Soon, he could talk easily and confidently. This story shows that using English in daily life helps you improve quickly. There was a woman named Hannah who wanted to improve her listening skills. Every day, she listened to English podcasts while cooking for about 20 minutes. At first, she understood only a few words, but she kept listening every day. After a few months, she could understand most of the conversations. This story shows that consistent listening practice helps you understand English better. There was a man named Lucas who loved reading newspapers. He wanted to learn more English words, so he underlined new ones and wrote sentences using them. For example, when he learned the word necessary, he wrote, "It is necessary to drink water every day." After several weeks of doing this, Lucas noticed that his vocabulary and reading skills had improved a lot. This story shows that using new words in sentences helps you remember them better. There was a woman named Olivia who wanted to travel to another city, but she was nervous about speaking English. Before her trip, she practiced common travel phrases such as "Excuse me," "Where is the train station?" and "How much is a ticket?" When she finally traveled, she used those sentences confidently, and people understood her easily. Olivia enjoyed her trip and felt very proud. This story teaches that learning useful phrases prepares you for real-life situations. There was a man named Adam who worked in a library. He wanted to speak English comfortably with visitors. He started by practicing simple sentences like, "Are you looking for a book?" and "Can I help you?" Day by day, he became more confident and started chatting with visitors about their favorite authors and books. This story shows that starting with small, simple sentences helps you build confidence for natural conversations. There was a woman named Julia who wanted to improve her speaking skills. She practiced speaking English with her husband Paul every day for 10 minutes. They talked about easy topics like meals, the weather, and daily routines. At first, Julia was shy, but after a few weeks, she spoke more freely and confidently. This story shows that a few minutes of daily practice can make a big difference in fluency. There was a young man named Kevin who wanted to write professional emails in English. At first, he found it difficult to choose the right words and grammar. He started with simple templates such as, "Dear Mr. Smith, I hope you are well. I am writing to ask." After practicing regularly, he could write polite and clear emails on his own. This story shows that starting simple and practicing regularly helps you improve professional English skills. There was a woman named Laura and her husband Thomas. They visited a museum and decided to read all the information cards in English. They took their time and discussed each card together. By the end of the visit, they could understand most of the information and even explain it to each other. This story shows that combining learning with hobbies makes English practice enjoyable and effective. There was a man named Samuel who loved fishing. One day, he decided to teach a boy named Ben how to fish. Samuel explained each step carefully, how to hold the fishing rod, how to throw the line, and how to wait patiently. After some time, Ben caught his first fish. He was very happy and thanked Samuel. This story teaches that teaching others helps you learn better. In the same way, when you explain English words or sentences to someone else, you understand them more deeply. There was a woman named Anna who wanted to improve her listening skills. Every day, she listened to English podcasts while walking in the park. At first, she could only understand a few words, but she did not give up. She continued listening every day. After a few weeks, she understood much more and felt proud of her progress. This story shows that regular listening practice, even for a short time each day, gives great results. There was a man named Robert who worked in a cafe. He practiced English phrases such as, "What would you like to drink?" and "Do you want milk or sugar?" Every day, he spoke a little more confidently with customers. After some time, he could talk easily and politely with everyone. This story shows that practicing simple, daily phrases helps improve fluency and confidence. A woman named Helen volunteered at a small clinic. She wanted to communicate better with patients, so she learned useful English sentences like, "Are you feeling better?" and "Take this medicine twice a day." She practiced these sentences every day. Soon, she could speak comfortably with patients and help them clearly. This story shows that using English in real-life situations builds both motivation and confidence. There was a young man named Michael who wanted to read English books, but he found many words difficult. He underlined new words, looked up their meanings, and wrote his own example sentences. After a few weeks of steady practice, his vocabulary and reading skills improved a lot. This story shows that reading, writing, and using new words together help you learn English effectively. There was a man named Oliver who worked in a small shoe store. Every day, he helped customers choose the right shoes and sizes. One day, a customer asked, "Do you have these shoes in size 42?" Oliver replied, "Yes, we have them in black and brown. Which color would you like?" The customer smiled and said, "I'll take the black pair." This story teaches that using clear and simple sentences is enough for good communication in daily work. There was a woman named Isabella and her husband Peter. They decided to start a small garden in their backyard. Isabella wanted to grow flowers, and Peter wanted to plant vegetables. Every morning, they watered the plants and talked about how they were growing. After several weeks, their garden looked beautiful, and they both felt proud. This story teaches that consistent effort and support from others help you reach your goals. The same is true for English. Daily practice brings strong, long-term results. There was a young man named Ryan who loved sketching. He wanted to post his drawings online, but needed English to describe them. He started with simple sentences like, "This is a cat," or "I drew this yesterday." Slowly, he learned to add more words and adjectives, such as, "This is a cute black cat sitting on the wall." After a few months, Ryan could write long descriptions and reply to comments in English. This story shows that starting small and expanding your vocabulary step by step leads to real improvement. There was a woman named Lily who enjoyed cooking. Every weekend, she and her husband Thomas tried new recipes. Lily read the recipe aloud in English, and Thomas followed the instructions. At first, they understood only some of the words, but over time, they could follow the entire recipe confidently. This story shows that combining hobbies with English learning makes practice fun and practical. There was a man named James who worked as a taxi driver. One evening, a passenger said, "Can you take me to the airport?" James replied clearly, "Yes." "Which terminal?" The passenger smiled and gave the details. James drove carefully and spoke politely during the trip. This story shows that short, clear sentences are often enough for successful communication in real-life situations. There was a woman named Emma who loved painting. She wanted to describe her paintings in English. She practiced speaking with her husband Mark, saying sentences like, "The sky is purple and the flowers are yellow." Mark asked questions and Emma answered carefully. After a few weeks, she could describe all her paintings confidently. This story teaches that combining personal interests with language practice makes learning enjoyable and effective. There was a young man named Peter who worked in a fruit shop. He wanted to speak English better with customers. He practiced simple questions like, "Do you want oranges?" or "How many kilograms do you need?" At first, he felt shy, but after a few weeks, he became confident and spoke fluently with customers. This story shows that using English in daily life helps you improve quickly and naturally. There was a woman named Hannah who wanted to improve her listening skills. She listened to English podcasts for 20 minutes every day while doing house chores. In the beginning, she understood only a few words, but she kept listening daily. After a few months, she could follow most of the conversations easily. This story shows that consistent listening practice is essential for understanding English better. There was a man named Lucas who loved reading newspapers. He wanted to improve his vocabulary. So he underlined difficult words and wrote his own sentences with them. For example, when he learned the word necessary, he wrote, "It is necessary to drink water every day." After a few weeks, Lucas saw a clear improvement in his vocabulary and understanding. This story teaches that actively using new words helps you remember them and understand English better. There was a woman named Olivia who wanted to travel to a new city, but she was nervous about speaking English. She practiced useful travel sentences such as, "Excuse me, where is the station?" and "How much is the ticket?" When she finally traveled, she used these phrases confidently. People understood her easily, and she enjoyed the trip very much. This story shows that practicing useful phrases prepares you well for real-life communication. There was a man named Adam who worked in a library. He wanted to speak English comfortably with visitors. He started with simple questions like, "Are you looking for a book?" and "Can I help you?" Over time, he became more confident and began discussing favorite books and authors with visitors. This story shows that starting with small, practical sentences helps you build confidence for everyday English. There was a woman named Julia who wanted to improve her speaking skills. She practiced every day with her husband Paul for 10 minutes. They talked about meals, the weather, and their daily routines. At first, Julia was shy, but after a few weeks, she spoke freely and confidently. This story shows that a few minutes of daily speaking practice can make a big difference in fluency and confidence. Summary of the lessons. Teach others to strengthen your own learning. Listen regularly, even for a short time. Use practical phrases every day. Combine English with your hobbies. Keep practice simple and consistent. There was a young man named Kevin who wanted to write professional emails in English. At first, he found it very difficult. He did not know many words, and his grammar was not correct. So he started using simple email templates. He wrote sentences like, "Dear Mr. Smith, I hope you are well. I am writing to ask about your product." Every day, Kevin wrote one short email in English. Slowly, he learned new words and phrases. After some months, he did not need templates anymore. He could write clear and polite emails by himself. This story shows that when you start simple and practice regularly, you can become better at professional English. Now let us talk about Laura and her husband Thomas. One weekend, they visited a museum. Inside the museum, they saw many information cards written in English. At first, it was hard for them to understand every word. So they decided to read one card at a time. Laura read the first card and explained what she understood. Then Thomas read the next one and did the same. They helped each other understand the meaning. By the end of their visit, they could read and understand most of the cards easily. They even tried to summarize what they learned in English. This story shows that when you mix learning with fun activities, English practice becomes more interesting and effective. There was a man named Samuel who loved fishing. He often went to the lake near his village. One day, he met a young boy named Ben who wanted to learn how to fish. Samuel smiled and said he would teach him. He showed Ben how to hold the fishing rod, how to throw the line into the water, and how to wait patiently. After some time, Ben caught his first fish. He was very happy and thanked Samuel for teaching him. Samuel also felt proud. This story teaches that when you teach someone else, you also learn better yourself. In the same way, when you explain English words or sentences to another person, your understanding becomes stronger. There was a woman named Anna who wanted to improve her listening skills. She decided to listen to English podcasts every day while walking in the park. At first, she could only understand a few words. But she did not stop. Every day, she listened for 15 or 20 minutes. Slowly, she started to understand more. After several weeks, she could understand full sentences and even small conversations. Anna felt very happy with her progress. This story shows that daily listening practice, even for a short time, helps you improve a lot over time. There was a man named Robert who worked in a cafe. He served coffee and tea to many customers every day. Robert wanted to speak English confidently at work, so he practiced short and useful phrases. He said things like, "What would you like to drink?" and "Do you want milk or sugar?" At first, he was shy, but he kept practicing. Every day, he spoke more clearly. The customers liked his polite way of talking. After a few weeks, Robert felt more confident and happy. This story shows that practicing small sentences every day helps you speak English naturally and confidently. A woman named Helen worked as a volunteer in a small clinic. She wanted to speak kindly to the patients, so she learned useful sentences such as "Are you feeling better?" and "Take this medicine twice a day." She practiced these sentences every day until she could say them easily. Soon, she was able to communicate clearly with patients. They liked her caring attitude. This story shows that using English in real-life situations makes learning more natural and builds confidence. There was a young man named Michael who wanted to read English books. When he started, he found many difficult words. He underlined the new words and looked up their meanings. Then he wrote new sentences using those words. He practiced reading and writing every day. Slowly, he learned more vocabulary and could understand the stories better. After a few months, he could read long books easily. This story shows that reading, writing, and using new words together make your English stronger. There was a man named Ethan who worked in a small flower shop. Every morning, he arranged the flowers nicely and greeted customers. One day, a woman came and asked, "Do you have roses?" Ethan smiled and said, "Yes, we have red and white roses. Which color do you want?" The woman said, "I will take red." She was happy with his polite answer. This story shows that even simple and clear sentences can help you communicate well in real-life situations. There was a woman named Clara who liked walking with her husband Daniel. They decided to take a walk every day in their neighborhood. Clara said, "Walking helps me feel relaxed," and Daniel said, "Yes, it is healthy for both of us." After some weeks, they felt happier and had more energy. This story shows that when you practice something every day, you get good results. The same is true for English learning. Daily practice gives strong and lasting improvement. There was a young man named Ryan who loved cooking. He wanted to improve his English so he could follow recipes online. He started with simple words and sentences like "chop the onions" and "boil the water." Every weekend, he cooked and read recipes with his wife Emily. After a few months, he could read full recipes and explain them clearly. He enjoyed learning English through cooking. This story shows that when you use English in activities you love, learning becomes fun and practical. There was a woman named Lily who loved running. She and her husband Thomas joined a local running group. At first, Lily felt tired and wanted to stop. But Thomas encouraged her, saying, "Keep going, you are doing well." Lily listened to him and continued running every day. Slowly, she became stronger and faster. This story teaches that encouragement and regular effort help you succeed. In the same way, when you practice English a little every day, you will make great progress over time. There was a man named James who worked as a taxi driver. One afternoon, a passenger got in and asked, "Can you take me to the city center?" James spoke clearly and said, "Yes, which street do you want to go to?" The passenger gave the address and thanked him for speaking slowly. James felt proud that his English helped him at work. This story shows that even short and clear sentences are enough for good communication in daily life. Next, there was a woman named Emma who wanted to improve her vocabulary. She loved reading English books and decided to make a small plan for herself. Every evening, she read one page and underlined all the new words. Then, she looked up their meanings and wrote short sentences using them. For example, she wrote, "I enjoy reading books in the evening, and it is important to drink water every day." At first, she needed to check the dictionary many times, but she did not give up. After a few weeks of practice, Emma noticed that she could remember many new words easily. She started using them naturally in her daily conversations. This story teaches that when you write sentences with new words, you remember them better and use them more confidently. There was a young man named Peter who worked in a cafe. He wanted to speak English well with customers. Every day, he practiced simple phrases like, "Do you want coffee or tea?" and "Would you like milk or sugar?" In the beginning, he was a little nervous, but he spoke slowly and politely. Day by day, he became more confident and could talk with customers easily. The customers liked his friendly attitude and clear English. This story shows that using English in real-life situations helps you improve communication skills quickly and naturally. Let me tell you about a woman named Hannah. She wanted to improve her listening skills. She decided to listen to English news and podcasts for 20 minutes every day while cleaning her house. At first, she could understand only a few words and felt discouraged. But she kept going and did not stop. After a few weeks, she began to catch more words and understand sentences. After 2 months, she could follow most of the conversations easily. This story shows that listening practice every day, even for a short time, is very important for understanding English better. There was a man named Lucas who loved photography. He wanted to describe his photos in English. When he started, he could only say simple sentences like, "This is a river," or "I took this photo yesterday." Slowly, he learned new words and adjectives such as beautiful, peaceful, and bright. After a few months, he could describe his pictures clearly and confidently. He even posted them online with English captions. This story shows that starting small and adding new words step by step helps you improve naturally. Next, there was a woman named Olivia who wanted to travel to another city. She felt nervous about speaking English with strangers. So before her trip, she practiced useful sentences such as, "Excuse me, where is the bus station?" and "How much is a ticket?" When she finally traveled, she used these phrases with people she met. They understood her easily, and she felt proud of herself. Olivia enjoyed her trip and realized that learning common travel phrases helps a lot in real life. This story teaches that practicing practical English prepares you for real communication. There was a man named Adam who worked in a small bookstore. Many visitors came from other countries, so Adam wanted to speak English with them. He started with simple sentences like, "Are you looking for a book?" and "Can I help you?" Every day, he practiced and spoke politely. Slowly, he could discuss book titles and authors with the visitors. They enjoyed talking to him. This story shows that starting with easy sentences helps build confidence and fluency in conversations. Another story is about Julia. She wanted to improve her speaking skills. She practiced with her husband Paul for 10 minutes every day. They talked about their meals, the weather, and daily activities. At first, Julia was shy and afraid of making mistakes. But Paul encouraged her to keep speaking. After a few weeks, she became confident and could express herself freely. This story teaches that short but regular speaking practice helps you speak fluently and without fear. There was a young man named Kevin who wanted to write professional emails in English. At first, he did not know how to start or what words to use. So he used simple templates and wrote sentences like, "Dear Mr. Smith, I hope you are well. I am writing to ask about your service." He practiced writing one email every day. After some time, he learned how to organize his ideas clearly. Soon, he could write emails without using any templates. His writing became clear and professional. This story shows that starting with simple forms and practicing regularly helps you master professional English writing. Let us hear about Laura and her husband Thomas. They visited a museum on the weekend. All the information cards were written in English. At first, they understood only a few sentences. So they decided to read slowly and explain each card to each other. Laura read one card, and Thomas tried to summarize it. They helped each other understand the meaning. By the end of their visit, they could understand most of the information easily. This story shows that learning English through interesting activities makes the process fun and effective. There was a man named Samuel who loved fishing. He went fishing every weekend near the river. One day, he met a young boy named Ben who wanted to learn how to fish. Samuel smiled and said he would teach him. He explained each step carefully and showed Ben how to wait patiently. Finally, Ben caught his first fish and felt very happy. He thanked Samuel for teaching him. This story shows that teaching others helps you understand things better. Similarly, when you explain English to others, you remember it more clearly. Next, there was a woman named Anna who wanted to improve her listening skills. She listened to English podcasts every morning while walking in the park. At first, she understood only a few words, but she continued practicing every day. After a few weeks, she could understand most of the conversation. Anna was proud of her progress. This story teaches that regular listening practice always brings improvement. There was a man named Robert who worked in a cafe. He practiced useful phrases such as "What would you like to drink?" and "Do you want sugar or milk?" Every day, he became more confident when speaking with customers. They enjoyed his polite communication. This story shows that practicing daily conversation phrases helps improve fluency and confidence. A woman named Helen volunteered at a small clinic. She practiced sentences like "Are you feeling better?" and "Take this medicine twice a day." She repeated these sentences daily until she could say them naturally. Soon, she could speak with patience easily and clearly. This story shows that using English in real situations helps you learn faster and communicate better. There was a young man named Michael who loved reading English books. He found many new words, so he underlined them, looked up their meanings, and wrote sentences to remember them. After a few weeks, his vocabulary and reading comprehension improved. This story teaches that combining reading, writing, and practice makes your English skills strong. There was a woman named Sophia and her husband Daniel. They decided to cook new recipes together every weekend. Sophia read the recipe aloud in English, and Daniel followed the steps. At first, they did not understand all the words, but slowly they learned cooking terms and kitchen vocabulary. After some time, they could follow the whole recipe easily and cook delicious meals. This story shows that learning English through fun activities makes studying enjoyable and useful. There was a man named Ethan who worked in an electronics store. He wanted to speak English with his customers confidently. He started with simple questions like, "Do you need help with your phone?" and "Which model do you want?" Slowly, he became confident and could guide customers easily. This story teaches that starting with simple practical phrases builds communication skills and confidence.